All right. My name is Jem McKnight, and today I am going to be essentially working through um, the assignment for week 7, model critical thinking. Kind of what's going to happen today in this video. I'm going to take about 10 minutes to kind of build an experience of how I would model critical thinking. I'm going to talk about a content area. A problem or topic that I'll be exploring. I'm going to identify my assumptions of this topic, how I feel about it, kind of what we're thinking. And then I'm going to talk about the branching options in my thought process. So basically, I'm going to slow down and I'm going to break down kind of what is happening, why it is happening. And I was kind of thinking, and like throughout this whole class, I think that the best way to meaning make and to understand a concept is to kind of tie it to an interest or something you care about or something you know about. And through thinking about critical thinking so much, I have, as a future English teacher, I think about writing a lot. I think about poetry a lot. I wrote a lot of poetry in undergrad. It always had big interest to me because it's this way of engaging with words in a deeper, more meaningful way to build your own meaning, to interpret it. And there's so many different experiences and feelings and interpretations because we are all so different. And I think that that kind of parallels with the intention and the point of critical thinking. I don't think that we stress this importance of learning how to critically think and to build stronger critical thinkers so that everyone will think the same way. I think what we want is individuals to engage and build meaning personally in a deeper way, to like question things, to understand things, to not just basically flow through life thinking the bare minimum or accepting thoughts, ideas as surface level. I think it's like really important in life to deeply engage and understand what we are going through and what we see, and like movie, radios, film, like all of these different things, like we can build deeper meaning with and have a build our own educated or like just stronger based thought process around something. And the best way I would say to do that is through poetry, or I guess a great way in a classroom would be to do that through poetry, because it is something that inherently has different meanings, different texts, different like written in a different way than normal, and it's supposed to be engaged in a deeper way to build a deeper meaning to it. There is no right way to read poetry and there's no wrong way to read poetry, but there are suggestions. There are different kind of methods to do it. There's different ways to break it down to kind of build that meaning. So what I'm going to do today, I've selected a poem that I believe, that I know is a high school level poem, and that I believe and know that like there's different ways to interpret it, and there's like two main different ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the entire poem, and then I'm going to kind of start talking about the way that like I would internally break it down, and then kind of show like the critical thinking process through something that inherently doesn't have one solution or one answer. It's a way to build deeper meaning with these words and to think about why these words are strung together in a specific way. And but yeah, anyway, so I'm gonna get into that. But what I'll do first is I will read the poem. So it is called The Waking. Um, so I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. I feel my fate and what I cannot fear. I learn by going where I have to go. We think by feeling. What is there to know? I hear my being dance from ear to ear. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. Of those so close behind me, which are you? God bless the ground. I shall walk softly there and learn by going where I have to go. Light takes the tree, but who can tell us how? The lonely worm climbs up a winding stair. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. Great nature has another thing to do to you and me, so take the lively air, and lovely, learn by going where to go. The shaking keeps me steady, I should know, what falls away is always and is near. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. I learn by going where I have to go. And that poem is by Theodore Rothke. I believe I said his last name right. Either way, I believe that this will be a great way to kind of model the process. Excuse me while I kind of look above the camera, and for reading the poem off the computer, it was just kind of easier this way. So I have some notes kind of to speak about how I broke down this poem and this and that. So I'll probably be looking above the camera a little bit, but yeah, so kind of to kick it off, I would say, first of all, we want to sit there and we want to ask kind of, what is the general feel of the poem? Are we already confused? Do we have an idea? Is it meant to be confusing? What's the intention? So I'd say first we're going to ask just general questions. We're going to be like, okay, so why? What is the point? So I would say from looking at this, like the poem is a little confusing off the bat. It has some paradoxes, has some clashes. The words kind of say different things. I wake to sleep and I take my waking slow. That inherently kind of has some confusion. It's a little repetitive. Why is it repetitive? And then secondly, I would say, okay, so we have these base questions. Let's find out how we're going to answer them. So through that, I would say, okay, step two would be, I'm going to delve deeper into this text. I'm going to break down it line for line. I'm going to look at how the words are constructed. I'm going to look at why they're placed there. I'm going to look at punctuation. I'm going to look at how the words interact with each other. So to look at that opening stanza, we're going to say, it seems to be reading to us in first person. It introduces a paradox right off the bat. A person waking to sleep is a contradictory feeling to experience. The statement can be interpreted in two main ways. The speaker is either awake and simply feels as if he is still asleep, operating like more methodically with less thought, just feels like basically in a fog, like just one track mind. Or if you kind of think about it in a more heady, deeper way, I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. I feel my fate and what I cannot fear. I learn by going where I have to go. That sounds very future-based to me. We're engaging with the text. We're thinking, what could that mean? Maybe it's saying he takes longer. Maybe it's saying that he's taking a day, a week, a month, his entire life to fully awaken, to grow. It could be some sort of heady explanation or reasoning for growth. And then we're going to keep going. We're going to say, okay, the second line presents the reader with some of that repetition. Like we're looking at the things that kind of say, that are said over and over in different ways through the poem. I feel my fate and what I cannot fear. The emphasis is on feeling fate and fear. The speaker seems to ascertain that there is nothing to be afraid of. He sounds a little bit more awake and certain than he did in the first line. This is bold. This is, I feel my fate when I cannot fear. It's not, it's a sentence. So like thirdly, after we develop some meaning, we can say, okay, what is the point? What is he saying? What can we kind of use from our experience? Like, what meaning can I make from my personal experience and from reading this poem and tying in like how I feel, and what I kind of built from it is that this is a message of slowing, like of growth. It's talking about how life throws challenges at you and it takes time, but you grow and you change and you build meaning with things, and life is not exactly what you expect. And basically I would say, okay, I've developed my meaning with this. I think it's about growth and change. So what would I do next? Well, as with any good way to critically think, I would say, okay, let's talk to others, let's share with others, let's have a discussion, let's challenge the words, let's keep building meaning. I have my general idea, but what can be changed? What can be tweaked? What can someone disprove? So I would talk to peers, I would have a class discussion, um, or I would look up online because there's millions of different forums and pages and all sorts of things that you can use to basically decipher poetry and read through it. And those, I would say, are like the four major things I would do to interpret poetry. I would first read the whole thing this entirely out loud. I would kind of say what's my general first impressions. Secondly, I would go in, I would kind of look for themes, like how the words interact, kind of what's going on, um, and look at like the physical structure and what is going on in the poem. And thirdly, I would go in there and I would start making meaning with the words, start tying my personal experience, start thinking about what the greater meaning and how everything works, and basically develop an actual feeling and understanding of the poem. And then fourth and lastly, I would basically share my thoughts and feelings with others and experience how other people thought about it, and basically challenge and build new meaning through others' interpretations and challenge the way I thought. And that is essentially how I would utilize like thinking and critical thinking to build meaning in poetry, where it is something that has many different meanings and can and be different, but um, basically it also has no right answer or wrong answer. It is just how we experience it and how we talk about it. And yeah, so thank you for listening. I hope that kind of made sense and works. So thank you very much.